Think, Mac. Think.
Last week, I watched my brilliant friend, a doctor with 15 years of experience, share a medical fact on Facebook that was completely wrong. Not just wrong, but dangerously stupid. When I asked him about it, he said, "I didn't really read it, it just seemed right." This is a guy who spent a decade in medical school, someone whose judgment I trust with my life. But somehow he lost the ability to think for 30 seconds before hitting share. You felt it too, haven't you? That moment when you realize someone you respect just said something incredibly dumb, or worse, when you catch yourself believing something you know you should have questioned. Here's what's really scary. Most people today can only focus for 8 seconds. That's less than a goldfish. In 2000, we could focus for 12 seconds. We didn't just lose our focus, we lost our ability to think before we act.
What if I were to tell you that in 2007, a new addictive drug came out and it took the world by storm? Over half of the world's population was using this drug daily. Check your pockets. Because I'm guessing you have this drug on you right now. And it's your smartphone.
But here's what nobody's telling you. This isn't happening by accident. This is the result of the biggest mind control trick in human history. Here's the question that will change everything. If humans spent thousands of years learning wisdom, how to spot lies, how to make smart choices, how did we lose it all in just 25 years? And more importantly, who wins when smart people start acting dumb? In the next few minutes, you're going to find out why wisdom is disappearing so fast. You'll learn that our inability to think straight isn't natural. It's the planned destruction of good judgment. But here's the good news. Once you know how this happened, you can fight back. Every bad choice you've watched people make, every time you've thought, how could they be so stupid? These aren't puzzles. They're signs that someone is deliberately making us less wise. Let's figure out how we went from smart to clueless in just one generation. Picture Leonardo da Vinci in his workshop. For hours, not minutes, hours, he watches a bird's wing, drawing every single feather. His phone doesn't buzz. No apps fight for his attention. Just pure focus that changed the world forever. That's what we've lost. The giants. There was a time when thinking deeply wasn't weird. It was just how people lived. Smart people back then didn't become geniuses by accident. They had something we've forgotten. The power to focus on one thing for longer than 8 seconds. Take Francis Bacon. He spent his whole life figuring out how science should work. John Locke created ideas about freedom that we still use today. These weren't superhuman brains. They were regular people with one huge advantage. Nobody interrupted their thinking. Here's what's crazy. Everything good in our world today, science, voting, human rights, came from people who could focus longer than a TikTok video. All those amazing discoveries from hundreds of years ago, made by minds that could think about hard problems for months, even years. But get this, even in the 1970s, this was still normal. Families sat at dinner and actually talked about real stuff. College kids argued about big ideas in coffee shops. People read whole books without once checking their phones. The 70s were the last time most people could think deeply about complicated things. New ideas were everywhere. People had the brain space to handle tough questions, to sit with confusing problems, to really think things through. Now, we think having Google makes us smart, but knowing where to find answers isn't the same as being wise. Having all the world's information doesn't help if we can't think about any of it for more than a few seconds. Somewhere along the way, we stop being giants. The real question isn't whether we're dumber than Leonardo or John Locke. It's this. What happened to our ability to think deeply about the things that matter? Because those 8 seconds, they're not just measuring attention. They're counting down to losing something humans spent thousands of years building, and we're about to see just how fast giants can disappear. So what happened to those giants? The answer has a date. January 9th, 2007. That's when Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and changed everything. He held up a small black rectangle and said, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." What he didn't say was, today we're going to rewire the human brain. But that's exactly what happened. The iPhone wasn't just a phone. It was the first weapon in the war for your attention. And you volunteered to carry it everywhere? Think about this. Before 2007, when you were bored, you had to sit with that boredom. Your brain had time to wander, to think, to create. Now, the moment you feel even slightly uncomfortable, your hand reaches for that rectangle. It's become automatic, like breathing. Here's what the tech companies figured out that the rest of us didn't. Your attention isn't just valuable, it's everything. Facebook makes $50 billion a year selling your focus to advertisers. That's not by accident, that's by design. They hired teams of neuroscientists and behavioral experts to crack the code of human addiction. They studied slot machines in Vegas and asked, how do we make checking your phone feel exactly like pulling a casino lever? The answer? Variable rewards. Sometimes you get a like, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get a message, sometimes silence. Your brain starts craving that next hit of dopamine, just like a gambler craves the next spin. But here's the really sneaky part. They made it infinite. Remember when TV shows ended? When magazines had back covers? When conversations had natural stopping points? Not anymore. Infinite scroll means there's always more. Your brain never gets the signal to stop. It's like sitting down for a snack and discovering the bag has no bottom. You keep eating because there's always one more chip. And those notifications? Pure genius. Red dots, buzzing sounds, pop-up messages. They're designed to make you feel like something urgent is always happening. Your brain can't tell the difference between a text message and a real emergency, so it treats everything like life or death. The average person now checks their phone 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes. We've gone from those Renaissance giants who could focus for hours to people who can't focus for 10 minutes without reaching for their pocket. But here's what really gets me. We call this progress. We convinced ourselves that having instant access to everything makes us smarter. But think about it. When was the last time you read something longer than a few paragraphs without getting distracted? The technology companies didn't set out to destroy human thinking. They just wanted to capture it. And capture it they did. Those 8 seconds we talked about, they're not shrinking by accident. Every app, every platform, every notification is designed to make them shorter. The giants didn't just disappear, they were systematically dismantled, one notification at a time. The question is, now that we know how this happened, what are we going to do about it? Want to see what those apps did to your brain? Let me show you through something that probably happened to you this morning. You sat down to read something important, maybe an article, maybe work stuff. 2 minutes in, your phone buzzed. Just a quick check, you told yourself. 30 minutes later, you're watching videos of cats and can't remember what you were originally reading. Sound familiar? Scientists put people like us into brain scanners to see what's happening up there. What they found should scare you. The parts of our brains that help us focus and make decisions, they're actually getting smaller. It's like our thinking muscles are shrinking. But here's the really scary part. Kids who grew up with iPads from birth, their brains never learned how to focus deeply in the first place. Imagine trying to build muscle but never lifting anything heavier than a feather. Think about your grandparents for a second. They could sit and read a whole book in one sitting, have long dinner conversations without anyone reaching for their phone, spend hours working on a hobby without getting bored. Their brains were like athletes, trained for focus. Us? We've trained our brains to be the opposite. We've taught them to crave interruptions. You know that feeling when you're trying to focus, but part of your mind is wondering if someone texted you? That's what scientists call never being fully present anywhere. You're reading this, but I bet part of your brain is thinking about your phone right now. Maybe wondering about dinner, maybe replaying an awkward conversation. You're here, but you're not really here. Here's a number that'll blow your mind. It takes 23 minutes to really focus again after someone interrupts you. But most of us get interrupted every 11 minutes. We literally never reach deep focus anymore. It's like trying to fall asleep, but someone keeps poking you awake. Remember those giants we talked about? Leonardo could stare at a bird's wing for hours because his brain worked like one powerful engine. all cylinders firing on the same thing. Our brains? They're like having 47 browser tabs open. Everything's running, nothing works well, and we're constantly on the verge of crashing. But here's what's really wild. When your phone buzzes, your brain thinks you're being attacked by a wild animal. Same panic response. Your heart starts racing, stress floods your system, your body goes into survival mode. Now think about this. You probably get 67 notifications a day. Your brain is living through 67 fake life or death situations every single day. No wonder you collapse on the couch exhausted, even though you spent most of the day sitting. The tech companies call this keeping you engaged. But brain scientists have a different word for it: addiction. Brain scans of heavy phone users look almost identical to brain scans of people hooked on cocaine. Same patterns, same responses, same withdrawal symptoms when you try to put the phone down. And just like any addiction, you need more and more to feel satisfied. Remember when getting one, like on Instagram, felt amazing? Now you need 10, then 50. The apps keep moving the goalpost to keep you chasing. We've basically become lab mice in an experiment, pressing a button for digital treats, except we built the cage ourselves and carry it everywhere. This is what happened to those 8 seconds. We didn't get lazy or stupid. Our brains were hijacked by the smartest engineers and psychologists on Earth, working together to make resistance impossible. But here's the thing, our brains can heal. The same flexibility that let them break apart can put them back together. The question is, are you ready to put down the button long enough to remember what it feels like to think like a giant again? Here's where things get really scary. What happens when everyone in a country loses the ability to think deeply? We're about to find out, and you've probably already seen it happening. Think about the last time you tried to have a serious conversation about politics with someone. How long did it take before someone pulled out their phone to prove their point with a meme? Or before the whole thing turned into people just repeating things they saw on Facebook? I watched this happen at my own family dinner last month. My uncle started talking about some complicated issue. I can't even remember what it was. But instead of actually discussing it, everyone just started sharing videos from their feeds. 20 minutes later, we were all arguing about stuff nobody actually understood, based on 30-second clips designed to make us angry. That's not an accident. That's what happens when you break everyone's brain. You know that movie Idiocracy? The one where everyone becomes so dumb that they pick a reality TV star as president and give plants sports drinks instead of water? That was supposed to be funny. Now, when I watch the news, I feel like I'm living in it. But here's the thing. The people in that movie weren't born dumb. They became dumb because their culture rewarded the loudest person instead of the smartest person. Sound familiar? Just last week, I watched a local election where the guy who won spent the whole campaign posting TikTok-style videos, making fun of his opponent. The other candidate had actual plans and experience, but nobody paid attention because his content was boring. We literally picked the funnier candidate over the smarter one. Social media turned politics into a popularity contest where the craziest comment wins. Big problems that need months of careful thinking get turned into angry pictures with words on them. We don't talk about ideas anymore. We just pick sides and yell. Remember when you used to actually watch presidential debates to learn where candidates stood on issues? Now you just wait for someone to post the best burns on Twitter. We've turned picking our leaders into the same mindless scrolling we do when we're bored. And here's the really scary part. It's working exactly like they plan. You know how your Facebook feed always seems to show you stuff that gets you fired up? That's not coincidence. Those same computer programs that learn to keep you scrolling have taken over how we vote. Facebook doesn't show you what's important. It shows you what makes you angry enough to click and share. I tested this myself. For 1 week, I only clicked on calm, thoughtful articles. My feed got boring fast. The next week, I clicked on everything that made me mad. Suddenly, my feed was full of outrage and conflict. The system learned exactly how to push my buttons. What happened? We're all living in separate fake worlds, each one designed to keep us scrolling and clicking and buying stuff. The computer programs learn that making people angry sells better than helping them understand things. Hate gets more clicks than hope. So now politicians aren't trying to solve problems. They're trying to become internet famous. News shows aren't trying to teach us things. They're trying to keep us glued to the screen. Everything that used to need deep thinking has been turned into entertainment. Think about your own habits. You probably spend more time picking what to watch on Netflix than you do learning about who to vote for. You'll read dozens of reviews before buying a $20 gadget, but you'll pick your president based on whatever 15-second video your friend shared. This is what happens when those 8 seconds disappear from everyone. When nobody can focus long enough to understand hard problems, easy answers start sounding smart. When people can't tell the difference between facts and feelings, whoever yells loudest wins. The scariest part? Most people don't even know it's happening. They think they're making smart choices while computer programs feed them exactly what they want to hear. They think they're staying connected while they're actually being split apart and controlled. We've built a world where being smart is boring and being loud gets you power, where seeing both sides is weakness and complicated thinking is the enemy, where the ability to think deeply, the thing that built everything good in our world, has become a problem. But here's what gives me hope. Realizing what's happening is the first step to fixing it. Every addiction starts with pretending it's not happening and ends with seeing the truth. And right now, you're starting to see. The question is, what happens when we realize we've been living in a digital casino designed to steal our thoughts? What happens when we understand that our broken minds aren't a mistake in the system? They're exactly what the system wanted. Because the same technology that broke us might be the key to fixing us. But only if we're willing to admit that those giants we lost, we didn't just lose them. We traded them away one click at a time. But wait, before you give up hope completely, let me tell you about something that will blow your mind. Your brain isn't broken forever. It can heal. I know. After everything we just talked about, the shrinking brain parts, the addiction patterns, the political mess, it sounds too good to be true. But scientists have discovered something incredible about our brains that changes everything. Let me tell you about Maria. She's 65 years old, and for the past 5 years, she felt like her mind was slipping away. Couldn't focus on books anymore. Forgot people's names. Started to think this was just getting old. Then she joined a study where researchers had her do brain exercises and take up painting. 6 months later, brain scans showed something amazing. Her brain had actually grown. Not just a little, a lot. The parts that control memory and focus were bigger and better connected than when she started. At 65, her brain was healing itself. This isn't some miracle cure story. This is science. It means your brain can literally fix itself at any age. Remember those studies we talked about? The ones showing brain parts getting smaller in heavy phone users? Well, they also found something the tech companies don't want you to know. When people took breaks from their phones, their brains started healing. Those smaller areas began growing back. It turns out your brain is like a muscle that's been sitting on the couch for years. It feels weak and out of shape, but it's not broken. It just needs exercise. Take Jake, a college student who couldn't read for more than 5 minutes without reaching for his phone. He thought something was wrong with his brain. Then he tried something crazy. He locked his phone in a drawer for 2 hours every morning and forced himself to read. The first week was torture. His brain screamed for distraction. But by week 3, something clicked. He could read for 30 minutes straight. By month 2, he was reading whole books again. His brain had literally rebuilt its focus ability. This is happening all over the world. People are discovering that the same brains that got tricked can be fixed. A study in Germany found that people who went on week-long phone breaks showed real improvements in how long they could focus, how well they slept, and how stressed they felt. Their brains were healing while they watched. Musicians who practice for hours build stronger connections in their brains. Artists who draw regularly get better at seeing things. Even people who learn new languages in their 70s grow new brain cells. Your brain isn't like a computer that gets old and slow. It's like a garden that can bloom again if you take care of it right. Here's the part that really gets me. Every single app and website you use was designed by teams of brain scientists and behavior experts specifically to trick your brain's ability to change. They use this incredible power against you. But here's the beautiful twist. The same power that let them break your focus can be used to rebuild it. Those giants we talked about, Leonardo, the deep thinkers from history, they weren't born with superhuman brains. They just lived in places that helped deep thinking instead of destroying it. And here's the crazy part. Some of the best phone detox programs are being designed by former tech workers. The same people who helped break our brains are now trying to fix them. They know exactly how the tricks work because they built them. The research is overwhelming. Exercise grows new brain cells. Meditation makes your focus stronger. Reading books rebuilds focus pathways. Even something as simple as eating meals without screens can start healing your brain. Your broken attention isn't because you're weak, it's an injury. And like any injury, it can heal if you treat it right. The question isn't whether your brain can get better. Science has proven it can. The question is, are you ready to give it the chance? Remember those 8 seconds we started with? They're not measuring permanent damage. They're measuring how your brain is doing right now after being under attack. But brains that are under attack can fight back. The giants aren't gone forever. They're sleeping, and it's time to wake them up. So here we are, standing at the point where we choose between becoming phone zombies and taking back our minds. The good news? You've already done the hardest part. You've seen what's really happening. That feeling you've had that something's wrong with how we think now? You were right. Those times when you can't focus like you used to? That's not your fault. Your brain was tricked by some of the smartest people on Earth. But here's what they didn't expect. Once you know the trick, you can beat it. I started small. Last month, I put my phone in another room while I ate breakfast. That's it. No scrolling through stuff while I ate. You know what happened? For the first time in years, I actually tasted my food. I had thoughts that nobody interrupted. I felt like me. My friend Sarah went even further. She deleted the social media apps from her phone. Not her accounts, just the apps. Suddenly checking Facebook meant opening a web browser, typing the website, logging in. Those extra steps? They broke the automatic habit. Her brain had time to ask, do I really want to do this? Most of the time, the answer was no. These aren't superhuman acts of willpower. They're tiny changes that give your brain a fighting chance. Remember those giants we talked about? Leonardo, the smart people from history, the deep thinkers? They weren't superhuman. They just lived in a world built for focus instead of distraction. We can build that world again, one choice at a time. The science is clear. Your brain can heal. Those brain parts that got smaller, they can grow back. Those focus muscles that got weak, they can get stronger, but only if you give them the chance. Here's what works. Start with where you live. Put your phone in another room when you sleep. Use a real alarm clock. Put walls between you and distractions. Your willpower runs out, but smart setup lasts forever. Pick specific times for checking messages. Maybe 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 5 p.m. That's it. Your brain will hate this at first. It's used to constant snacking on information. But just like any other addiction, the cravings go away when you stop feeding them. Try this test. Tomorrow, read something for 20 minutes without stopping. Anything. A book, a long article, even a Wikipedia page. When your brain screams for distraction, notice it, then keep reading. You're literally rebuilding your focus muscle. The most important thing, stop thinking this is just about your willpower. This is about all of us working together. We need rules that protect our minds the way we protect our bodies. We need technology built to help us think, not steal our thoughts. But here's the beautiful part. We don't have to wait for politicians or tech companies to save us. Every time you choose deep thinking over distraction, you're voting for the kind of world you want to live in. Those 8 seconds we started with, they're not just measuring how we're getting worse, they're counting down to a choice. In the next 8 seconds, you'll decide whether to keep scrolling or start rebuilding, whether to stay a lab rat or become a giant again. The power was always yours, you just forgot you had it. So here we are, back where we started. Yesterday, I sat down to read that email from my doctor. 3 words in, my hand reached for my phone. But now I know what was really happening in that moment. Those 8 seconds weren't measuring how broken I'd become. They were showing me the exact moment when I could choose between staying trapped or taking my mind back. Most people today can only focus for 8 seconds. But now you know the truth. Those aren't 8 seconds of failure. They're 8 seconds of power. 8 seconds to vote for the kind of mind you want to have. 8 seconds to wake up the giant that's been sleeping inside you. Every time you feel that pull toward your phone, you're standing at the same choice point. Every buzz, every urge to scroll, every moment your mind wanders. That's not weakness. That's your moment to choose. The giants we talked about, Leonardo, the deep thinkers from history, they weren't superhuman. They just lived in a world that didn't fight against their focus every 8 seconds. Now you can build that world for yourself. Here's a question that only makes sense now that you've taken this journey. If every 8 seconds you're choosing who you become, and you make this choice about 10,000 times a day, who are you becoming? Think about it. How do those 8 seconds feel different now that you know what they really mean? If this journey opened your eyes, hit subscribe. You're joining people who refuse to stay trapped. People who choose deep thinking over quick distractions, wisdom over entertainment, giants over goldfish. The revolution starts with your next 8 seconds. Make them count.